Good evening, guys, and welcome to Four Guys, a Girl, and a Show. My name is JQ. We have our lovely panel as always. We have Mr. Brian Isaacs on board,
Hey, hey.
Mr. Mike Hopkins,
Hey,
Mr. Dave Harriman,
How's it going?
and the vixen goddess we have here, Miss Stacy Rader.
Good evening.
All right, guys, we got episode 3 working out today, where we're going to bring you some films, figures, and funny books like always. First and foremost, we'd like to wish a speedy recovery and a get well to our guest we were supposed to have today was Mr. Matt Sturgis. Fell under the weather, got a little bit of a bug. He'll be back with us soon. So speedy recovery and a get well soon to you, my friend. Also, Stan Lee, the godfather of comics, he as well had a pacemaker surgery done earlier in the week, so a speedy recovery to him as well and his family. How you guys doing this week?
Good.
Good.
It was a pretty interesting week today. This week in comics, we had the end of the Zero issues come through. We'll talk about that. In TV, we had the reveal of the premiere of the DC Nation. The new Nickelodeon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series started as well, and the release of some very big movies. A little movie like The Avengers and The Dark Knight Returns Part 1. We talked about that last week, but the actual release came this week. So hopefully y'all went out and got those things. Let's start off with our first topic. Talk about DC Nation. Who enjoyed the Green Lantern and our Young Justice snippets?
I thought they were good.
I'll say this. Oh, sorry.
Stacey, go ahead, Stacey. Go ahead. You go first.
Sorry, I was just going to say, this is probably the first Green Lantern episode I've watched all the way through and actually enjoyed. I normally record it just to fast forward through it and watch the little short between that and Young Justice. So hopefully that means that the episodes are going to be better this season.
I agree. I mean, it looks like it's gonna. They're with the addition of Guy Gardner. It looks like they're coming through with some of the other lanterns coming through the sea. We have the Blue Lanterns hinted for next week from the previews. The Guardians making Hal a honor guard member. So we're starting to see some of the comics come to light here, but it still has that kid-friendly spin to it. The animation, even though it is the CG 3D animation that people kind of was not too liking about it, actually didn't look too bad. They cleaned it up a lot. I guess the show got some money to put into it, and we're seeing some better things from it. I enjoyed it, actually. The whole Carol Ferris scene with Hal was, very adult friendly there, but also the kids like, oh, look, it's Carol and all that stuff. But I enjoyed it. I liked the episode. It was pretty good for a season premiere. What say you, Mikey?
I liked it too. I liked the fact that they made Guy Gardner all cocky, and the fact that Hal Jordan kind of felt left out, that he'd been gone for so long.
You notice the defiance to Hal Jordan too when he was in that Guardian chamber. It showed too as well. That's what I liked about that.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that they made him into something more than just a regular Green Lantern.
What about you, Dave? What do you think about it?
I like the new show. I thought the Guy Gardner was a little over the top with the attitude, but again, that's the show to kind of convey how he truly is. And I actually love the appearance of the Manhunters being the secret cave on Earth, and then hinting at the new villain, possibly the Anti-Monitor, coming into play.
Yeah, the thing that got me about the whole Manhunters was they were pretty hard to beat at first, and all of a sudden, toward that ending of the fight, it was like, okay, let's put a football helmet on and blow them up. It kind of, I know it's for the kids, it's cartoony, but to me, it kind of lost its oomph of them being that badass if they were destroyed that easily. What about you, Brian?
I remain unimpressed with Green Lantern. I can't get past the really poor computer animation. I'm sorry, if you're gonna do a computer animation show, do it right. Don't spend half the money and come out with what we're seeing. It looks poor to me comparatively to something by Pixar or something you see in the movies. I understand this for television, but I'm sorry, you just don't cheap it out. It doesn't work for me. I really didn't enjoy Dietrich Bader as Guy Gardner at all. He's just like, here's another voice. They use him whenever they need something else. It's just like they need a voice. He's like one of these guys they always fall back on, and his voice is getting old, in my opinion. I just really remain unimpressed, and like was pointed out, the drama was almost non-existent. Made no sense. If their power rings work in 1 second, it don't work 1 second. Next thing they do, it's just it was all over the place. I couldn't enjoy it. I'm sorry.
All I
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
all I see is, especially with the voice for Guy Gardner, was I kept thinking Drew Carey because he was on that show as well.
Yeah, I just can't get past it with him.
And don't forget he was also the Batman in Batman Brave and the Bold. Then we bring up to Young Justice. Now this episode, this whole series, is a breath of fresh air in my opinion, because it started off a little slow, then it started picking up some steam. Some people still aren't liking it with the time jump and whatnot, and the time jump actually confused me this episode as well, because when Invasion started, you saw, Robin became Nightwing, and then you saw a new Robin, and they mentioned him as being Tim. But then in this premiere, you see they're downstairs, and they have the shrine of memorials for fallen. I call them Fallen Titans because to me they're the Teen Titans, even though they're called Young Justice. But you see the memorial of the fallen members, and then there's a Robin there. And I'm going, wait, Tim died? And it confused me. And then everyone's going, no, that's Jason. I'm going, Jason? And then what they're trying to say is, and I guess going with the DC New 52 timeline, if Batman can have 4 Robins in 7 or 8 years, I guess there can be 4 Robins as well, 3 Robins at that time frame for Young Justice. I do hope they do go into that a little bit more and discuss that, but they probably will not, because it's not a Batman show. It is a show about the young heroes. The whole thing for me was amazing. I like seeing Ollie being vulnerable like that. I did think they made the real Roy a little too ambitious, going right after Lex like that. But nice little nods and hints to him becoming Arsenal, and we'll see how it plays out. What about you, Mike? What do you think?
As a not a morning person, so I don't get up early in the morning. This is one of the first ones I recorded. I thought it was pretty decent. I did like the fact that he did go after Lex Luthor like right away to bring in a new character. I like the montage they paid to deceased characters, and the fact that they said that they didn't want statues put out everywhere to pay homage to fallen heroes. So they made their own little, I guess you could call it a room. So all in all, it was a good show. I liked the whole show.
Dave, what about you?
Well, being a big fan of the Turtles growing up and I'm loving the originals, the only thing I wasn't happy with was Michelangelo was always my favorite Ninja Turtle. And while he was always
Wait,
a goof...
Dave. We're talking about Young Justice.
Oh, I'm sorry. I want Ninja Turtles, Young Justice. I thought Young Justice, it was good. I think the 5-year jump storyline has a lot of people guessing on what happened in between, and it leaves a lot of unanswered questions. And with that, unfortunately, unless you fill that gap, a lot of people feel lost. And as good as the show is, I mean, it's great storylines and great characters. I'd really wish they would go back and truly fill those plot holes, because it leaves way too many questions for there.
The gremlins are attacking Dave.
I agree with Dave saying. I mean, there's a lot of plot holes, and will they go back and hit that eventually? Hopefully they will. But like I said, most of the plot holes we're seeing are from, I guess, I hate to focus on Batman, but the Bat side of the universe. What about you, Stacey? What you think?
I liked it. I was impressed. I guess I'm maybe in the minority. I like that they've stuck with the timeline and they're not going back and doing a lot of retconning or telling the story. I think it adds to the mystery to kind of say, here's what happened. Here's 5 years later. We're not going to go back and tell you what happened. We're just going to go forward from there. I liked the little scene with the girls and Captain Cold. I thought that was a lot of fun. And I guess that's the one thing that impresses me about this show is that it takes characters that in the comics I don't really care about. Like, I don't really care about Roy in the comics, but on this show I think he fits, and I think it's something that every week I'm interested in watching. So now I'm actually watching them for not just the shorts, which I hope we get a chance to talk about in just a second, but I'm actually watching the shows, and Young Justice is definitely one that I was not excited, but my husband was. So I started watching it and said, okay, I'll give it a chance. And now I like it. Now I actually look forward to watching.
What about you, Brian? What you think about it?
I just love Young Justice to begin with. This is the heir apparent to the Justice League cartoon. This is not a dumbed down cartoon. This is not written for kids. This is written for adults, and that's what I love about it. It pulls no punches. This episode we saw 3 flawed characters. None of them are perfect, and that's what's amazing. You got talks about death. You got a character's missing an arm and wants revenge. Cartoons just don't get much better than this. And then there's just this. This is what animation should be. Everyone else, please pay attention, because this is what your animated shows should look like. They should not look like whatever you think you're doing. This is a perfectly animated show. The only problem I really have is just I hate the Blue Beetle. That's about it. But I do. I don't mind the 5-year gap. I know some people do, but I thought it was. I'm kind of like Stacy. It's going to unfold in our eyes. And I guess, we'll just have to roll it out and see how it goes.
Yeah, and I agree, because we got a look at the graveyard scene when we had Sportsmaster and Jade, talking about Artemis, I guess, being buried at that point. How the light is not showing all their cards to their own members. The light, I guess, allowed this to happen, where Sportsmaster and no one really knows that the Titans, the Young Justice members, Nightwing and Kid Flash, they plan Artemis's death as a part of the thing. So Sportsmaster now is going to go after the Mantas, looking for revenge, which I think is a side story in itself that should make the show continue to go pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazingly written show. And I'm really enjoying it.
Well, let's talk about some of the other things in DC Nation that we have here. The superhero shorts that we have rolling on. The one things that I don't like about the shorts are the real life weapons of how they the batarang and the arrow, and those are pretty cool to watch. Someone like throw an arrow or batarang, but this guy can run a hurdle and outrun silly string. That was kind of silly in my opinion. But the female short with the Batgirl, Wonder Girl,
super best friends.
Yeah, my daughters love that, and I think it's kind of funny to watch them because it's cool.
I love the super best friends. I find it's great. The voice casting. I love how they have a Greek accent for Wonder Girl. I'm just like, oh, you guys nailed it. And it's so funny and Grundy no hit girls. Can you get
Grundy makes exception.
It's just like it's a funny. I like that one. I agree with you about the hit or miss with how real life things would work in the DC Nation. I'm just like I feel like they could pull it a bit farther. Put a little bit more effort into it. I mean that one with the guy running was just like, okay, you're going to compare a guy who runs a 15-second mile to a theoretical guy who could run faster than the speed of light. Yeah, I don't think he could do that real well. The one segment I did hate is I'm just not a fan of the Titans cartoon. That Japanese manga animation. It's why do they have to bring it back? And now that they're in that so-called big head, I don't even know what they call it, the big head, small body thing is just like, why?
Deform or something like that. Something deformation, something like that.
Super
I can't think of it.
deformed.
Yeah, that's what it is. So, Stacy, what do you think? You want to talk about it? What do you think about it?
I am a huge fan of the shorts. I love the this week. I loved both of the Titans one and of course the Super BFFs. I wish that. Well, I shouldn't say I wish. My hope, DC Nation, if you're listening, please make a Super BFF show because I think it would be such a good show. I would watch it every time I was on because it's so funny and I love the art. I love that they drew Supergirl kind of chunky and that they all look different. They're not just cookie cutter cartoon characters. They're all very distinct. Like you said, it's funny and it sometimes it's about being a superhero and sometimes some of the ones we saw last season they were just sneaking out of the house, like Barbara sneaking out of the house. I love one of my favorite ones they did was the Aardman Entertainment, the guys that do like Wallace and Gromit and those. They did kind of the claymation superheroes, but they had little British kids voices. Come on, it's just too adorable and a lot of fun too. So it's one of those things that you can watch with your kids and it's something that everybody can enjoy.
I kind of like the Atom short they had. That was kind of cool. It was like a 4-parter, the longest one that we ever seen. It was really cool to see that little progression of that show.
But they haven't finished that yet. That's taken from one of Gil Kane's last DC work. So to see that animated, it was just like, can you guys please finish this up because I love this storyline. Sort of the Atom's a classic story.
What about you, Mike? What you think about the superhero shorts?
The female one reminded me of Powerpuff Girls, and I didn't really watch the other ones. I kind of fast forwarded through them because they didn't impress me. I was more interested in getting caught up in Young Justice than I was doing the shorts. I did watch I did think the Solomon Grundy thing was kind of funny, but it did remind me a lot of Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah, but I think it's supposed to.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, and then
it's very similar.
The same thing with the Teen Titans. I wasn't the big head, the little body, and just the stupid look on Beast Boy's face because he was camera shy. Yeah, it didn't work for me.
Well, all in all, we could say DC Nations is sort of a win. We can say that there's some things have to work on, but most of it is a win. Let's move on to our next work of art. We have the Nickelodeon version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the rehash, reboot, redo, whatever you want to call it, to a timeless classic. I tell you right now, I enjoyed it. There were some things they should have worked on, but you know what? It took a little bit of everything to make this show. And the way I say that is, if you're a fan of the old black and white books, well, there was stuff in there for you. If you're a fan of the 90s, 80s cheesy cartoon, there was stuff in there for you. If you're a fan of the newer age cartoons or the movies, there was stuff in there for you as well. All in all, I would probably say it was a 7 out of 10. Some of the animation, in my opinion, was a little off, but you know, at the end of the day, I would say the only disappointment I have majorly was the snakeweed villain. I'm just going by what Michelangelo called him. If that's gonna be his official name, then it is what it is. But the whole, all right, well, mutagen fell on me. I'm in a pile of weeds. I'm now snakeweed. It's kind of weird. It didn't really work for me, but I thought if they would have kept with the Krangs, that could have been enough to go on. Not have to bring a freak of the week type thing right then and there too early. The very end with the Shredder, I did like that. I'm looking forward to seeing how he progresses. He looks a little darker than we've seen in other animated formats. So hopefully this should be a cool version of this Shredder we're looking for. What about you, Stacy?
Um, I loved it. I actually watched the premiere Friday night, which was just the first half of the premiere episode, and then finished it up Saturday morning, and I loved it. I will say I've been aware of turtles obviously since the late 80s, but never really delved much into the mythos, and because of the new toys coming out and falling in love with them, thought, I probably should know a little bit more about it. So I've started reading some of the older comics, but I really am into the IDW series that's going on right now, which is just phenomenal. And I think the show takes a lot of its cues from that story. But like you said, it pulls from everything, and I enjoyed every second of it. I enjoyed the animation. I saw someone doing an analysis of the show. They compared some of the animation to Scott Pilgrim, and I think there is a parallel there, especially with some of the backstories where you had kind of that static picture, but then there was some kind of motion to it, almost like a motion comic. So I'm excited to see how it progresses. I thought it was a good mix of action and comedy. There was a little bit of funny stuff. So clearly this is not a show that's strictly for adults, even though probably almost every adult I know was glued to their TV at some point this weekend watching it. But I think it's a good mix for adults and kids.
I agree. I totally agree. Dave, what about you, man? What do you think?
Well, I thought, being a huge fan of the original Turtles, I was happy to see the montage in the beginning where you see them all on the rooftop. Definitely a kind of a message back to the old Big Turtle fans. I like the beginning theme song. It definitely will attract kids. It's a good concept. I just had a few problems with some of the character developments in the show. Donatello with the missing tooth. I get he's the brainy guy with the missing tooth, but just didn't make any sense to me. And Michelangelo understands to be a goof, but it was way over the top, klutzy and moronic. Understand he should be a little. He's a more free spirit kind of person, but they kind of played it way over the top, in my opinion. Other than that, I think it's a good show. I'm happy to see where it goes. I do agree with you. I think Snakeweed was a little bit of a lackluster villain. But otherwise, I'm actually happy to see this, and I'm excited to see where it takes us. They did say that Casey Jones is slated to come up next in 2013 if it gets renewed for a second season. So I'd be excited to see him come in.
Cool. What about you, Brian?
I don't think I'm the target audience, and also my DVR screwed up, so I only got the one first episode. You guys are talking about snakeweed, and I'm like, what? Wait, did I miss something? So I guess it was 2 episodes. Somehow my DVR screwed up and only got me the 1 episode. So I thought the voice casting was pretty decent. It had some nice humor. What bothered me is the casting of the voice of Donatello. It's the same guy who did Raphael in the 80s series, and he just seems so miscast against the other, voice cast. Something just seems off there. But it was a long, growing up with the Turtles. I mean, and when I mean growing up with the Turtles, I mean remembering when the original black and whites first came out. It's not bad. I mean, you guys are right. It does have a little for everyone.
So, Brian, who's your favorite turtle?
I'm always torn between Ralph and Leo.
What about you, Stacy?
I'm gonna say, it's a tie for me between Donatello and Michelangelo. But honestly, I like Michelangelo because he's the little guy and I'm short, so that appeals to me.
What about you, Dave?
Okay, well, if going classic Turtles, Michelangelo. For the new cartoon, I got to go with Raphael for right now.
How about you, Big Mike? Who's your favorite turtle? Mike, who's your favorite turtle?
Leonardo, because he's awesome with the swords.
I always liked Raphael, and the thing about Raphael, he's totally opposite to my persona. Those who know me know that I'm not near aggressive or as hot-headed as Raphael is, but he always was my favorite for some strange reason. Cool. Well, guys, we all agree that this show is a win as well. Well, let's go on to our next order of business. We have something that Brian Isaac's gonna love to discuss here. Grant Morrison talking about Multiverse in 2013. Brian, take the helm.
Oh, you really don't want me to do that. This arrogant ass has it. First off, he has his own con where he announces it. How much of an arrogant ass do you have to be to have your own con named after? This guy thinks he's Stan Lee. I don't know who the heck he thinks he is. He's not a great writer. It's been teased already that Multiversity is going to be coming, exploring the rest of the 52 worlds, which I think is a great concept. I always liked the multiple Earths. But Morrison is the wrong damn writer to have it. And it looks like he's teaming up with Frank Quigley again, and his art just sucks. There's some art up of his, doing the Charlatan Heroes, and quite honestly, yes, we all know that Charlatan Heroes were the inspiration for Watchmen, but it really looks like Morrison is ripping off Alan Moore. Hey, Morrison, you're not Alan Moore. Stop.
Yeah, I read the article as well, and I kind of like the idea of them going back and touching the other Earths, like, the Earth, the Red Sun Earth, where that whole storyline came from. I actually loved that story, and I would like to see more from that era for some reason. That was one of the multiverses I liked the Elseworlds I liked the best. Same thing with Thrill Killer, that era, that Earth, where that story was made from. If they were to touch on Thrill Killer again, that'd be kind of cool. But other than that, I mean, to me, it's always, like I said, it's always been a hint they're going to go back to this. They did say that during the New 52 for the first year, there would not be any multiple Earths, but then Earth 2 book came out a little early, I guess. So it's a work in progress, I think. We'll see what happens. Let's see. Stacy, what do you think about it?
Morrison is hit or miss for me. I've read some Morrison things that I really enjoyed, but it seems like a lot of his stories, they're really good. Like the first 3 or 4 issues are really good, and then it delves off into this kind of weird thing that's inside his head, and which is fine. He knows how to start stories. He just doesn't really know how to finish them sometimes. And I'll admit that my experience with him is primarily with DC stuff, so I've not read anything that's outside of that universe. As far as the multiverse, to be honest, if it's an interesting story, I'll pick it up. If it's not, I won't. I'm not a slave to, it's a multiverse story, I have to buy it. I think the New 52 is really, I don't want to say disillusioned, because there are a lot of DC things I still enjoy. I think it's just sort of, there are other things in the comic universe that I'd rather spend my money on. So really, I guess I'll take a wait and see attitude with it.
All right. Dave, what about you?
Well, I've always been a fan of like what ifs and Elseworld stories, whether it's Marvel or DC. I've always been a huge fan of those storylines. I'm not 100% familiar with Morrison's work, and I'm not happy with the way the new DC 52 has run things with messing with the timelines. But when it comes to Elseworlds or other universes, those kind of things don't come into play. And I love seeing characters in different roles. You had Superman's Red Sun. You had Gotham, Gotham by Gaslight. Lots of different Elseworld stories, and I like that concept. So I'm actually excited to see what these books are. Depending on the characters, I stick mainly like Batman, Superman, and those kind of characters in Green Lantern. But it really depends what they do with it. It's a hit or miss. I agree. I have to wait and see what they do and read a few issues to see if it's something I really want to get into.
And, I have to agree. Morrison is very hit or miss, and I mean, there's some stories. I mean, he dives in the Bat universe more than anything else, I think. And the fact that I do enjoy the whole Batman Incorporated. There's some things where, like I said, like how Stacy says, he jumps in and out. It's one of those things where, yeah, he's hit or miss, but he writes one of my favorite characters, and I'll read it because it's a favorite character, but I don't necessarily like everything he does. Go ahead, Brian. I heard you moan.
It's just some reason he's gotten a pass to write anything he wants, even out of this new 52 continuity. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just like, oh yeah, that's no problem, Grant. Write whatever you want. Please, Bat Cow, really? Do we really need that?
Yeah, I didn't like that either.
And quite honestly, the way I see Batman Inc. is, so pretty much in the eyes of the public, Batman is Bruce Wayne's bitch. Okay. But one thing I am curious about with the multiverse, I wonder if, because as we were talking about Young Justice before, they technically are one of the multiverse Earths. It's been said that they're Earth 16, and that holds true with the New 52 as well. So I'm wondering if they'll show up in this multiverse series.
Another thing, the question would be: is it going to be like how DC Comics presents, and they have like a couple arcs of this story, then they change to a different story? Is it going to be like that? Is it going to be the multiverse presents this story for a couple arcs, and they're going to jump around to different things? Or does each book have its own say? I mean, if that's the case, I mean, it might be kind of cool that way to pick up a couple books here and there if you like the story they're talking about or whatnot.
I doubt it. This is Morrison. He jumps around, and like Stacy said, a lot of it's in his head. He just doesn't know how to get it on the page. And I really think he's gonna drop the ball big time. But as we've seen before, it's some reason the mass audience seems to love this idiot, and they feel he can do no wrong. And I'm one of the few that don't drink the Kool-Aid. That's all I gotta say.
Well, and I think in terms of continuity, I think DC's playing pretty fast and loose with it anyway. I mean, you look at like Damian. I mean, if you read Batman and Robin, I know this kind of goes a little off topic, but if you read Batman and Robin, it seems like it exists before the New 52 started, but then some of the stuff is like, oh, just kidding. No, this all really is new. I don't know. So maybe Morrison will be right on there.
Well, I mean, Damian as a character just doesn't seem to make any sense either. I mean, if Batman's just been around for 5 years, how does he have like a 10-year-old son?
Because
it's in the old continuity.
Yeah,
but it's pre-Flashpoint, and they try to give Damian some sort of purpose in that Zero issue of Batman and Robin. However, like Brian said, if Batman's been around for this long, how does he have a 10-year-old son, or how does he have 4 Robins for that point too? And we're gonna talk about some comics later too. But talking about the Zero issues, you got that problem with continuity. It's just they're all over the place.
And that's why you got a lot of people leave. You got the new guys who will stay, but you got old timers who just can't stand it. They don't like what's going on and they leave. I mean, Perez left because he couldn't take it. And, as much as a hack as he is, Layfeld left because he got tired of The fact that the editors had, they didn't know what the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. And like Stacey said, they are playing it very fast and loose, and it doesn't work.
Well, supposedly they're supposed to be leading into their first arc at some point, and that's the other thing that bothers me. Whatever happened to the person with the red hood that was in every issue when it first came out?
Oh, she made an appearance in Justice League Zero this week.
Yeah, she did. She did.
They named her. Her name is Pandora, and she actually does have a box that she's been trying to open.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
she's
I
in
guess
the
apparently
later
she's going to be part of the new arc story that they're going to start.
Yeah, there was for Free Comic Book Day, they gave her she has an origin that's linked with Phantom Stranger and The Question.
And Shazam.
And Shazam, yes. So
yeah, I mean, if you don't count the Third Army or the Court of the Owls as a crisis, the actual full-on DC universe is going to have their full first crisis coming, I think, before 2013 or around outs when the multiverse is supposed to pop in.
Yeah, the Trinity War, I think, is what they're calling it. And it's based because of the before they became Pandora, the Phantom Stranger, and The Question, they were called the Terrible Trio or something like that, I think.
I think you're right.
Which is interesting because his Terrible Trio in the old comic book days was three guys in masks, the Vulture, the Owl, and the Shark.
Yeah.
Very campy. I'll be avoiding that crossover like the plague, like I avoid every crossover.
I mean, you get with the timeline issues, you got to include Green Lantern with that. I mean, I brought this up before. You've got the whole Blackest Night that involved, the entire DC universe, pretty much, and that seems to almost be wiped off the map. It happened, yet it's got no place really right now in the main part of the DC, like Justice League lines or anything. It doesn't seem to have any effect there.
No, it doesn't. The problem is DC claims they have a timeline, but it really doesn't show. They've also forgotten about the domino effect. You remove one thing, it affects all these other things. How is Kyle Rayner a Lantern? How is his girlfriend still dead when it was Major Force who killed her, who doesn't exist anymore?
I think they had that timeline that Doc Brown had in Back to the Future 2 where it's skewed down and across. It's all over the place.
Yeah. It's just... Unfortunately, this is a growing trend with the two big with both DC and Marvel. They have said, the hell with continuity. They're just going to tell good stories. Personally, I think good storytelling needs continuity. Call me old-fashioned. That's what I grew up with. That's 70 years of comics right there, is the continuity.
I mean, in defense, I agree on both sides, but the stories have been fairly decent to cool. I mean, I have not read a story yet that has blown my socks off. I've read a couple books that I've said, wow, I'm impressed, but my socks have not been blown in a year, so we'll see.
Well, in that same sense, and I got to agree with Brian that I love continuity in everything I read, but at the same time, I have gotten a little tired of every 20 issues or 30 issues is a retelling of a character's origin, and they change it somewhat.
Yeah, agreed.
Well,
they need that.
Michael. I know Brian's gonna turn over in his grave, so to speak. But the only story that I've thought so far that has stayed continuous and true to everything has been the Green Lantern story. And I only believe that because they're leading up to the Third Army.
Yeah, but there was no changes with any of the... They kept everything... That's the problem. This is a soft reboot. It wasn't a hard reboot. If it was a hard reboot, everybody would get a revamp, and it would make more sense. The problem is they decided to keep the Batman and Green Lantern continuity from before the pre-52. And that's where it gets confusing.
Yes.
Yeah, the four walls of those two books, Green Lantern and Batman, they stay the same, and the changes didn't trickle out to the outside. They were supposed to be understood, as opposed to, if you were an avid reader, you understood what happened. But if you were someone brand new, you're going, what? Rainbow lanterns? What? I don't get it.
It's just a mess.
Yeah, I mean, well, hopefully they'll fix it. I mean, we've heard there's a back door to fix everything. We'll see if it comes to that point. I mean, we have our opinions, but at the end of the day, they're gonna do what they gotta do to sell the books, and that's all it's gonna come down to is the almighty dollar and the sell books.
But the thing that doesn't make any sense is, and I think I brought this up before, is this entire change is supposed to. We haven't, other than action figures, all the merchandising is still the old 52.
Yep.
They just came out with an issue of Miss Magazine with a cover drawn by Mike Alred of Wonder Woman in her old 70s costume. I'm like, if you guys are supposed to be promoting this new 52, why wouldn't you just have the new costume? It doesn't. None of it makes any sense to me. I just.
Well, with the economy, it's more cost effective, and they probably don't want to spend the money to revamp a bunch of stuff.
But this was a brand new cover, and I'm talking about products that are coming. They had the licensing show over in June, and they were still showing and the licensing shows when you buy the license, and they're still showing the old characters. Come on.
And it tends to vintage sales. I mean, look at all those T-shirts you see at the Hot Topic, and even Old Navy comes through with some old school superhero shirts as well. So I mean, in a sense, I can see where the T-shirts and the pillowcases and all that stuff, the old school stuff sells in that sense. But I agree though, the new 52 is like they're almost not believing in their own product.
No.
Bring back Underoos.
Yeah, well, to your point, Brian, though, I think the reason that they went with the classic Wonder Woman in this instance is that it was for the 40th anniversary, I think, of Miss Magazine, and Wonder Woman had been on the cover every 10 years. Like, she was on the first cover, and then so I can see. Plus, All Red is very much about kind of that Silver Age, and I think it is a lot that Wonder Woman is culturally recognizable. So of course they're not gonna throw that out for the new Wonder Woman, because people, unlike us, people out there, they don't know that there's a new Wonder Woman. All they know is Linda Carter.
No, I hear you on that, but I don't know. It's just seeing the eagle on her chest again. It's just like, I think these days I've seen more products with the W than the eagle anymore. So I just find that interesting.
Mm-hmm. I like the eagle. I wish they'd bring it back.
All right. Well, let's move on to our next topic. Let's talk about. Let's go into some movie news. Our very own Stacy went and saw Dredd over the weekend. Stacy, what you think about it?
I loved it. It was a consummate comic book movie to me. Great action. The story was good. It was the way it was filmed was, it was visually pleasing. Unfortunately I didn't get to see it in 3D. The theater that I was at, they only had, I think, one 3D showing, but I really enjoyed the way that they portrayed. There's a kind of a drug that people take called slow-mo in the film, and whenever anyone takes it, then the screen, everything gets all sparkly and it's in slow motion. And the first time I saw it, I thought, boy, if they do this a lot, it's going to get old. And it really didn't, because they did it at strategic points in the story. To be honest, I'm sad that the film's not doing better stateside. I think the reason it's not is that Dredd is really not a recognizable character to the general public, other than that dreadful movie that they made in the 90s with Sylvester Stallone, which was,
I am the law.
Yeah, it was horrible. And Carl Urban does say I am the law in this film, but he says it in a way that it flows naturally. It's not the histrionics that Stallone is, I am the law, like it's just it was very enjoyable,
So
and I, even if you're not a fan of the comic, which I've never picked up a Dredd comic, it's accessible. As much as a futuristic city with judge, jury, and executioner all in one can be, but I think it's accessible to people who don't read comics. It's just a good action movie. The way that they filmed it, where the majority of the action occurs in this one high-rise building, was genius because one, it cuts down on production costs, and two, it almost seems like a video game. And sometimes you say that, and it might mean that might be a negative, but in this case it wasn't. It was, they were working level by level, and the different actions that happen, and I guess being a gamer myself, I recognize that. I'm like, okay, yeah, that would be, there's a save point and there's a save point, because that's just how my head works. But I highly recommend it if you get a chance to go see it. It was really good.
Now, his partner in the film is the character Judge Anderson. In the comics, she has psychic powers. Did she have any in the film?
She did. That plays very heavily within the plot.
Awesome. I was afraid that they might leave that out. Just, sometimes things don't translate well. That's cool. Awesome.
Yeah, and it did, and it wasn't like TV procedural drama psychic. It was, the way they did it again was very intelligent. And the girl that played her, Olivia, I think her name's Olivia Thirlby. I'm probably butchering her last name, but the last time I saw her, she was Juno's best friend in Juno, so it was an interesting I thought it was an interesting choice, but she played it very well. I mean, it wasn't like the typical, I'm the girl character. She held her own.
Nice.
So is this a movie theater movie, or is this a DVD movie?
I think it's a movie theater movie, strictly for some of the special effects that they do. I think they translate very well to the big screen.
Now, since you saw it in regular print, do you think it would be worth the extra money to see it in 3D? Is the big issue.
If the 3D is in the parts that I suspect it is, I would probably recommend going for 3D. I don't think you miss anything seeing it in 2D. I think they did it well enough to where it didn't look like they just threw it together. And for the 2D people, everything I've read and other people that I know that have seen it have said the 3D translates very well. It isn't like a, ooh, there's a hand coming at you. It's more seamless.
Cool.
I hope it does well enough that they may even go into an animated feature for it further. Reading a little of Judge Dredd, I'd love to see them do an animated feature on Judge Death, who I thought was a great character in Judge Dredd's universe.
I agree with you there. That would be cool.
Yeah. Well, some more movie news. We have some Fox movie news. Brian, want to hit that up?
Well, it looks like Fox is retaining the rights to Fantastic Four, and they still have the rights to X-Men. And
I
liked First Class, and hopefully the new Wolverine film will be good. But they recruited Mark Millar as a consultant on their movies. Millar is one of these writers who seems to be slowly going off the deep end. I swear to God, it's just like his stuff was very good. Ultimates was great. The first series of Ultimates was great, and then after Loeb messed with it, Millar came back, and I thought he's lost a little something in his brain. His creator-owned stuff, Kick-Ass, was awesome, but some of his other stuff, I swear, it seems like he's losing it.
I like Nemesis. I don't know if you ever read Nemesis, but I actually thoroughly enjoyed that short run that they had of it.
They're making a sequel.
Then I will be picking it up.
Yes. Theoretically, it's supposed to be a movie, too. It's being optioned, I think, at Fox, actually.
I mean, let's just hope that they keep true to some of the. I mean, the problem we've all had with the Fox movies is, I think all the same. We all have the same beefs about it. Seeing what Disney has done with some of the movies now is actually, has been very good, very well, and we've actually enjoyed it to the utmost degree. I mean, look at Avengers and how it all got pulled together. I'm kind of hoping that they kind of take, I guess, a piece of knowledge from that and try to work it in, because some of those franchises are some epic franchises, and to see them go to waste is just is disheartening to me. And yeah, I'm a DC guy, but I mean, this to see our favorite characters or iconic characters on the big screen, you kind of get saddened when you see the travesty that we've seen in some of the Fox movies.
But in all fairness, I mean, the first two X-Men movies were really good. They were. I mean, the first X-Men film pretty much set a new standard in superhero films, and the second one was really good. I mean, it's Fantastic Four, that just crashed and burned. Wolverine wasn't that great, but I thought they redeemed themselves with First Class, even though it was kind of totally out of continuity from the first two X-Men films. I really enjoyed it.
I like First Class. The Fantastic Four movies had some good quality to it. I did not like the portrayal of Galactus in the second Fantastic Four movie at all.
I don't think anyone did.
I was a fan of the first one, but the second one, yeah, I wasn't impressed by the second one.
What, you don't like a big cloud being Galactus?
Nope.
Oh, Lord.
All right, well, let's talk about some comic picks of the week. We're talking about funny books. Let's jump into there. Stacy, what'd you read this week that stuck out in your mind?
Well, anybody, as we move on with the show and we hear talk about comics, a recurring theme that you'll hear from me is that I'm a huge fan of Mike Allred. So I was super excited to learn that he was doing a one-shot for Marvel. He's ramping up his Marvel involvement. He did a Daredevil issue a few weeks ago that was amazing. But this week he tackled Wolverine and the X-Men and brought back one of my favorite characters, Dupe. I love Dupe. One of the first things that I started reading, actually the thing that I fell in love with Mike Allred was his brief run on X-Force and then moving over into X-Statix. And I love Dupe. He's a crazy character. Sometimes he's very serious. Sometimes it's really funny. This issue, it's issue number 17. It was very lighthearted, and it truly was a funny book. It made me laugh. I just highly recommend picking it up because it's just a one shot, so you don't really have to know anything about the continuity of Wolverine and the X-Men. It's just kind of a fun little, hey, here's Dupe. If you like Dupe, read about Dupe and some of the crazy stuff that he gets into. So I'm super excited. I've already read it like 2 or 3 times, and I'll probably read it 2 or 3 times more in the next week or so.
Cool. What about you, Mike? What'd you read this week?
I read Red Lanterns issue 0. Being that I got back into comics at the New 52, this issue answered a lot of questions about how Atrocious became Atrocious, and with the fact that his home planet and his family gets destroyed, and the same people that destroy it recruit him. Or I'm sorry, it was the Manhunters that destroyed it, but the same people involved end up recruiting him as well, and he ends up killing his recruiters in the end and makes a Red Lantern himself. But all in all, I love the backstory of him, and I think he's just one bad dude, and I wouldn't want to fight him in any form.
I liked a little snippet about how the power battery was being held by that one member.
Yes.
What about you, Brian? What'd you read, Brian?
Actually, this week was a very, very light week for me. I've been cutting back left and right just because of not being really impressed. So the only thing I really got was Aquaman, and it was a pretty decent issue. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was great. I mean, that's all I can really say.
What about you, Dave? You ready on this one?
Yeah, actually, I actually read nothing new this week. Nothing really came out that I was impressed with. But I actually picked up, was out in the market this weekend, and I picked up an old issue of Eerie magazine. Read a couple parts of The Mummy Walks, written by Steve Skeets. I thought was a phenomenal book. I love reading the old horror comics.
Did you guys hear they were remaking The Mummy?
Yeah.
I like the originals of Brandon Fraser. It doesn't need to be remade. But that's Hollywood.
I happen to have picked up one of the Zero issues this week for they call it the third wave. I picked up Talon, number 0. This whole Core of the Owl storyline kind of interested me, not because I'm a Batman fan, because it seemed kind of cool that there was someone there prior than the Batman doing justice. Written by Scott Snyder, he kept his writing there. Art by March, Julian March. It was not a bad read. You had this Talon, last name Rose, same upbringing. He was a escape artist from Haley Circus. Came about the ranks. Someone saw him do some Houdini type escapes from the Court of Owls. Gave him a test run. While doing his test, he had to kill the owl he was going to replace. Well, he did that. And then the court made him sit in this labyrinth, the same labyrinth that Batman had to escape during that run. Well, he ends up, for a week, trying to escape the labyrinth. He goes into the actual Court of the Owls main hall and beats them there. And so they appoint him a Talon. He got out of the game, and they were sent to kill him. Well, you can't kill a Talon, I guess, who doesn't want to be killed, or so on and so forth. But it shows his rise to being his own person. He thus kills the Talon who was sent to kill him. He takes all of his armor, takes all of his weapons, and now the end page he drives off. So it looks like they're going to have a Talon run loose who's not on the side of the court, but not on any side, kind of like playing in the middle. So I'm interested to see. I'm going to give it the 5-issue run, see what happens in 5 issues. But it's a good pickup if you want to read something new.
It seems like it's almost a Azrael knockoff, though.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting ready to say. Like a Batman Begins movie. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, and Brian, it's funny you said that. I was trying to piece of where this could possibly fit in, and you just took the words out of my mouth without me even saying it. It felt like Azrael. But it's definitely, if you have something you want to read new, if you didn't read the Core of the Owls, you'll be kind of lost in that sense. But this is a character that wasn't mentioned during the court. He's sort of a new character per se, and it's a good jump on if you want something new. All right, well, we hit some pretty good things this week. We talked about DC Nation. We talked about the new Ninja Turtles. Talked about the Morrison jumping into the multiverse, which Brian loves. We talked about Fox having Marvel movies, Mark Millar as a consultant. Also hit on some Judge Dredd movie action and comics of our picks of the week. All in all, we had a really good show, guys. What do y'all think? Gonna do it again next week, right?
Absolutely.
Why not?
All right, let's get some shout outs before we close it out. Stacey, who you want to shout out to this week?
I would like to shout out to our brand new Twitter account for the show. It is at 4 guys, 1 girl, 1 show. So that's at 4 guys, 1 girl, 1 show. Check us out on Twitter.
What about you, Dave? Mike, any shout outs for you?
Yeah, I'll hit up Mark at Imperial Toys again. I want to give a shout out to one of his websites called G.I. Joe Outpost. For me, I'm a G.I. Joe avid collector, and I like to go there because you'll find a lot of 80s stuff. and a lot of 25th anniversary Joes and a lot of vehicle parts that you may need. I also want to throw out a shout out to Ratfink. He just started a new website or a new Facebook group about customizing, where you can go and ask any questions you want. I have to find the page because I'm not 100% sure what it was called. Oh, Custom Cut Collaboration Coalition. Go check that out. It's a good place if you're starting to customize and you want to learn a lot and ask questions. That's a good place to go to.
Cool. Dave, what about you?
Give a shout out to one of our good Facebook pages, Make Mine Marvel, and Billy Allen and Josh Miller. Those guys support our show, and Billy Allen did some nice custom work, which we'll see on a future show. I'll be showing some of that stuff off to you guys in the future. It's a good shout out to those guys. Good page to join for toys, figures, and other trades.
What about you, Brian?
Yeah, once again, I got to pimp myself out. Check out Pendragon's Post, realm for news, reviews on comics, toys, movies, and DVDs.
And I am going to give a shout out to my buddy Scott Hoverman at 3 Alarm Comics, the only comic book shop in the south coast of Mississippi and Alabama. Come on down. Also want to give a shout out to our friends Tony A over there at the Action Figure Toy page. Those guys support us as well. And guys, those who are supporting us and listening to us on the web, and we thank you all very much. And this is something that the group of us here just tool around do every week, just for fun and for you guys.
And be sure to check out our Facebook page as well for 4 Guys and 1 Girl on a Show. Any suggestions for future shows or future contacts you'd like guys to hear us talk to, feel free to drop us a line so we have some ideas for future stuff coming up that you'd like to hear.
Most definitely. All right, guys. Well, for Brian, Stacy, Dave, Mike, this is JQ. We're signing off. Have a good night.